Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast, everybody. This is Kim Skarupski from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, Office of Faculty Development. And on today's podcast episode, I'm so pleased to have back Dr. David Yousem. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Kim. How are you?
I'm so happy now that I'm talking with you. Friends, if you've been listening to the podcast, you recognize Dr. David Yousem, MD, MBA. Dave is Hopkins Associate Dean for Professional Development. He is a neuroradiologist and author of the textbook on neuroradiology, former division director of neuroradiology, professor, and a long time, a lifelong Hopkins person, right? I think it's been your whole career, correct?
I came in 1998 after 10 years from University of Pennsylvania, which was a wonderful time in my life as well.
Yeah, that's right. All right. And so Dave is one of our beloved members in the Office of Faculty Development, and the faculty just love him. He has great seminars and workshops on mentee rules and time management, and he's designed two-day courses on the economics of clinical operations, another one called Academic Toolkit, How to Build Your Academic Clinical Practice. So he's done lots of creative, innovative, and things. And on top of all that, he is super fun. So I'm so excited to have him share with you today about something he does in his workplace and something that we had a little opportunity to collaborate on together. So Dave, why don't you tell everybody what the snippet is today?
So today I'm going to talk about having joy in the workplace. It's been my contention that if you're talking about burnout and resilience, then you've kind of lost the battle almost at that point. Whereas what I'd like to think about is how do I maintain and create joy in the workplace? This is a collaboration that Kim, you and I discussed and ultimately led to an editorial in the American Journal of Neuroradiology, the December 2017 issue. So way back when, and we've had a lot of experience with implementing some of the suggestions that we made. And so I'd like to talk about that topic in 5 sort of headings. The first of which is, as you know, I'm Mr. Mission. So about the importance of mission and having happiness at work, and then talking about appreciation and gratitude and celebrations and decorations and the choice of being happy. So can we structure it that way, Kim?
That sounds wonderful. Love it.
All right, so let me start with the first part, which is the mission part. And that is that when you have committed people to the work that you're doing, that they believe in it and it makes sense to them and they're stimulated by the mission of the institution or the group practice, whatever it may be, it's much more easy to have happiness at work if you're believing in that mission. And I'll just make a side comment that, although Johns Hopkins School of Medicine faculty generally are paid at, let's just say it's around the 25th percentile, you have long-term Johns Hopkins faculty members who believe in being on the faculty because they believe in what Johns Hopkins represents, that School of Medicine and the excellence that we do with teaching medical students, teaching residents, teaching fellows, as well as the mission of creativity and bringing innovation to medicine, as well as all the connections that we have to the School of Public Health and the School of Nursing. So sometimes, you might be offered a better job with from the standpoint of, compensation plan. But as far as building commitment to the mission, making the faculty happy on that basis, I think we're pretty much second to none, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that mission is very important, and having it sort of inculcate throughout the institution and what you do.
Yeah.
And at Johns Hopkins, we have this strategic plan that's always brought out at almost every meeting with the dean or the president of the health system, and they refer back to the strategic plan, which leads to the fulfillment of the mission of Johns Hopkins. So I think that's fundamental, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've known faculty who get offered, double and triple salary. And, you're right that it's enticing to be wooed by that. And then when you take a moment to examine the culture and go visit, that's where you do the real gut check of is like, what are you sacrificing? Because, everything's a trade-off. So institutions like Hopkins, where you may not, as you said, we're at the 25th percentile for salaries, we are sacrificing some amount of income, but you're gaining a lot on the other end. And if you want the salary, you may be giving up something on that end. You may be giving up that research mission, that mission to community, the collaboration, the collegiality, a culture of innovation. So it's all, it's a balance of what are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah. And when you look at some of the business school research, engaged employees tend to sell more product and gain more clients and have happier customers, et cetera, et cetera. So the other word that we sometimes talk about is faculty engagement. And if you have faculty that feel deeply engaged in it, they tend to be happier at work because they feel like what they're doing is important in the world and fulfilling.
That's right.
So that's number one, I think, for joy at work is working on that amount of engagement of the employees or the physician group, as it may be, with regard to the mission, vision, and values of the group. The second thing is building in appreciation and gratitude. So I tend to think of appreciation and gratitude as one is more directed towards other people, and the other is more directed towards your own self. So when I think about being grateful, it may be that you may think of it in terms of, I'm grateful for my colleagues, I'm grateful for the good work that I do, I'm grateful for the intellectual stimulation, and then using the term appreciation for, I appreciate the other people and having expressions of appreciation for the work that your administrative assistants are doing, or your students are doing, or your mentor is providing to you. So whether you have different connotations for it than I do, I think that having an attitude of gratitude and these feelings of appreciation for both what you have as well as for what you're gaining from the other persons in your life, I think is an important part of being joyful. And I'll tell a story that is a little funny and sort of ironic in a way. I used to have on my computer a little alarm that would go off at 2:00 on Fridays. This was when I was the division chief. And the alarm would say, appreciate people. And so at 2:00, the alarm would go off and I'd get on my email and then just, make notes to people about different things I noticed during the week of my faculty or my students or my mentees or the nurses or the techs or, the administrative people, and send notes, somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock. And it was a nice thing to do until I was having a meeting with someone at 1:30 to 2:30, and we were working at my computer, and suddenly up popped this little reminder, which was, send out messages of appreciation. So the person looked at this and said, "Is this why I get these emails from you on Fridays?" Like, oh my God, it's just a reminder? I thought you meant that. I was like mortified that I was found out that I needed a reminder on Fridays at 2 to be appreciative of all the people around me. So,
but I think that is, while it sounds like it may, I'm sure it was a little bit embarrassing, but it's also that humility and you're being humble of saying, yeah, the things that are important to us, we schedule. No, this is not meant to be some, leadership book that I've, 101 and I put in my calendar or something I don't care about. No, the things that are important to me, writing, producing scholarship, sending appreciation, exercising, meditating, I schedule those things because they are important to me. And so I think that that's a beautiful thing that says, no, it's so important to me that I actually have it in my calendar. That's why I have it.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So to get into the habit of this, for example, on my commute from Owings Mills, Maryland into East Baltimore, there is this one section of about half a mile, I would say, where it's nothing but horse farms to the left-hand side as you're going south on Green Spring Avenue. It's nothing but horse farms. It's beautiful fields, and you can see the horses in the distance. And it also has a little fountain that the people have automated in a little pond. And so I got into the habit of, whenever I would hit that mark on my commute into work, I would think about all the things that I have that I'm so grateful for. And it's a great exercise. It's a daily sort of affirmation of having an attitude of gratitude and just being happy about all the wonderful things in my life rather than focusing on the problems, etc. So I think that if everyone who has a regular commute can sort of have a visual stimulus, if you will, to make that reflection on gratitude a habit, it will help the attitude, and it'll bring more joy to your daily life, in my opinion.
That's right.
So gratitude and appreciation, I'd say, would be the second part. And sort of what comes a little bit in association with that is celebration at work. So in my division, which had about 32 faculty, and then you add in about 13 clinical fellows, and then maybe 6 research fellows, and then we also had the neurointerventional group. We had a good number of about 50 people that were in the neuroradiology division, as well as the administrative assistants, et cetera. And so we had, listed everyone's birthdays, and so we made a big deal about everyone's birthday as a acknowledgement and a reason to celebrate. And we looked at all the different holidays, and we had, holidays for, Persian New Year, Nowruz, and we had Diwali holiday for some of the Indian faculty that we had, and as well as all the other standard American holidays, and had celebrations. And I think the important thing is that we had celebrations at work. And I think that's a nuance that's important, and that is that you want to have people think about happy occasions and celebrations and associate it with the workplace. Mm-hmm. So the idea is not to go celebrate Diwali, out at an Indian restaurant and then have people associate the celebration with, Akbar restaurant. You want them to have the idea of happy times and associate with the workplace. Mm. So the birthday celebrations and the different holiday celebrations, we wouldn't go out and have a faculty dinner. In fact, we even converted the Christmas, December holiday celebrations to at work rather than doing it off-site. Because, again, the idea being let's associate happy celebratory times with the workplace, and that way you will be more joyful at the workplace. You have some thoughts on that, Kim?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. It makes me happy to think about that and it just seems to me like an old-fashioned idea of when you watch television shows or old movies where back in the day when there was a lunch break room and people actually took lunch together and ate together and just got to know each other, that I feel like a lot of us have gotten away from that everybody eats at their desks, and the idea of doing a celebration is kind of always like, sometimes it's like, it's a burden. You have to, after work, go do something, or you're taking up time on your weekend, and it's almost like an infringement on this false dichotomy of work or home. So I just love how you've woven that whole concept of work is a fun place. They know me. I am known. I am missed when I'm not there. I'm valued. People like me. This is not a grind always. It's also can be a respite. It can be a place of joy. So I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and Kim, as you know, some of the happy hours that you've organized over the course of many years have generally been on Hopkins campus. It's not like we go, all right, let's go for a happy hour off to a bar outside of the campus. We try to have the wine events, et cetera, on campus. And I think, if you associate that, we had such a great time. Remember, we were at the Welch Library at Hopkins and had that wonderful party. You associate work with happy times.
That's right.
So the fourth piece, and again, it gets back, things are kind of intertwined here, is the idea of the environment that you work in. And it's been shown, for example, that office areas that have plants out or flowers or those type of accoutrements to the environment even the type of music or aromatherapy, that they tend to be happier places, and people associate with happier, more satisfaction at work. And so I have implemented this, as you know, in my division, Kim, with decorating. So we try to, when we do have celebrations of various holidays, we try to decorate the neuroradiology hallway. Fortunately, we're all kind of clustered in this one focal area. But we have Halloween witches and all kinds of, ghosts and goblins and stuff, and we get dressed up, etc. So we make it that as you walk into the neuroradiology reading area, it's kind of a fun place because, we celebrate July 4th and we got all the flags going across the hallway. You have to duck your head because there's a flag across for July 4th, and, there's cobwebs all over the place for Halloween celebrations. And, when we do have birthday celebrations, there's usually a, picture of the person. And so having an environment that also is kind of fun and changing and not just the same old, week after week, I think is also a subtle way of psychologically priming people for happiness at work.
Yeah. I mean, your area, neuroradiology, is a destination. It really is. When there be seasons and holidays, I'd make it a point to go down there and take a look because it does. It just changes your attitude. It makes you smile. If anything, it makes you smile.
It does. And, we try to do it in a way that covers all of the religions so that way people, are not offended in any way. So during the winter months in December, there's all different types of decorations from all the different holidays that occur in the winter months. So, we try to do it in a way that everyone can feel a part of it. So I think that that's another piece of that sort of celebratory environment, if you will. And then finally, I talk about sort of the attitude and the choice of happiness. And this, a lot of people say, oh, this is hokum, how can you choose to be happy and everything? But I really believe as a happy person, and generally a person who's very satisfied at work and at home, that it all depends on how you viewed things. So, for example, people in the future may know this. Kim, you and I are recording this during the time of the coronavirus stay-at-home policy. Mm-hmm. And on the one hand, you can look at this and say, oh, my God, this is, horrific. There's lots of people dying, obviously, and there's all this isolation, and psychologically it's very depressing to have to remain at home. Or you can look at it from the standpoint of all the different things that you could do potentially that you didn't have time to do when you were having to commute to work, for example. So, I'm still doing my neuroradiology from a peripheral location. I don't have a commute, so I'm saving some time in that regard. And obviously the volumes are different than they were before the epidemic. But I think that, for example, this has afforded me the time to be able to work with you, Kim, on the Faculty Factory podcast and have that time together. Right. I could tell you that my mother is now calling me every day. And so we have a more intimate relationship as far as knowing what's going on in each other's lives because of this pandemic, which is obviously globally a horrible thing. My children and I are much more in touch. Everyone's very caring about each other, looking very concerned for each other and making sure that we're checking in with each other about what's going on and any health issues. So on the one hand, you can choose to be depressed, unhappy, very sad at this time, and it is a sad time for our world. Or you can look at it from the standpoint of what are the opportunities here. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with snow days. So, Baltimore doesn't handle the snow nearly as well as University of Michigan, which is where I went to college and whatnot. So a lot of times the days are shut down and the schools are shut down because of, 5 inches of snow. And people start calling in about not being able to get into work. And I love snow days. I look at snow days as this is going to be a great commute into work. It's going to be a challenge, it's routine. It's much more exciting. I can't wait to get into work. There won't be as many people, so it'll be nice and quiet. There'll be less volume. And I want to go into work because I don't have children at home, and I want all my faculty who have children at home to be able to stay, with their kids because the school's off, so they'll have more family time. And I love snow days. I just really look forward to snow days. I know some people look at snow days and say, "Oh God, my whole day is ruined." So it is an attitude, and it's something that I think you have to cultivate. And I don't know. I think there's some literature that if you do a habit for 21 days, that it's more likely to stick. So what I'd like to encourage the people listening is for 21 days in your commute into work, or once we start commuting back to work after this stay at home, for 21 days, spot a time where you will express gratitude and be appreciative of what you have and the people around you. And also for 21 days, try to take something that could be viewed in a negative light and try to flip it in some way as to what is how can I, make lemonade from lemons? What is the bright spot that I can pull out of this, despite the fact that it may be a little bit of an inconvenience or a major inconvenience, which we're going through, obviously, with this pandemic.
Yeah. I think it was Jennifer Haythornthwaite, where we were talking a couple weeks ago, and she said, it's again, that mindset shift that we were talking about, that happiness is a choice. She said, I'm not thinking of this, stay, shelter in place and stay at home mandate as I am in solitary, or I am, in solitary confinement, or the term solitary, rather solitude, which has a more positive connotation. And in fact, people will pay money to go on retreats or these silent retreats and to be in solitude. And so it was a shift of my saying, that's right, I'm not solitary, I am in solitude. And it gets to that whole thing of just reframing or looking at through a different lens, a different angle. And the other thing when you're talking about the choice thing is, I remember listening to a morning radio show, and they were talking about marriage, and they said, one of the biggest problems is people think that when you're partnered with someone that's all about happiness, that I don't feel happy, that happiness is a feeling. And as soon as we stop feeling happy, that we're out, I'm out, I'm done, I'm not feeling happy. Rather, as you instructed, you choose to be happy. And again, I don't want to be trite or sound like we're being flippant about things, but the idea that you don't have to feel happy, you can choose to be happy regardless of what's happening in life.
Exactly. So I'll give a final example of that attitude part of it, and that is that tomorrow night is the first night of Passover, and normally we would get together as a family in Baltimore, and of course, I'm now in part in Colorado. I wouldn't be able to make it. My son is in New York. We have other family in Massachusetts, and we would usually get around 8-9 people together that could make it in for a family Passover. So instead, tomorrow night, we are doing the Zoom Passover. I don't know what, Zoom or Skype or whatever. I don't want to push one. But to make a long story short, every single person in my family that we would normally invite said that they could make it because, well, they're at home. And so we're going to have the biggest family gathering we've ever had for Passover, by bringing in all the people from all the different states, from all different locations on a Zoom Seder, and for those of the people who are having Easter holidays ahead of, they may experience the same thing. So yeah, it's a horrible time that we're going through with regard to this pandemic. But on the other hand, as I said, in some ways, it's brought my family closer than it ever has.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just to summarize, how to bring joy at work. Number one is, make sure that people are bought into the mission and they are engaged in it. And if not, then work that mission and make sure that it's something that everyone feels committed to. Number 2, express gratitude, express appreciation. Stop, think about your own life. Start think about the other people in your life. Have celebrations. Make reasons to celebrate. You got that grant. The paper was published. Mm-hmm. Let's have a paper publishing, a new paper published party. Mm-hmm. Celebrate. Then, have an environment that is well lit. That's hard in radiology, frankly, but it's bright, it's cheerful. Bring in, the Easter bunny, eggs or the Passover matzah, as the case may be, this season. Make it an environment that people come to work and they sort of, like you said, you smile when you come down that neuroradiology hallway because there's always something kind of neat in decoration. And finally, work on that attitude of choosing to look on the bright side and the happy things in your life and try to convert something that may be a difficulty into an opportunity.
Oh, I love it. So great as usual. Thanks so much, Dave. Everybody, thank you for joining in on this podcast. You've been learning from Dr. David Yousem at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine Office of Faculty Development.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.